Welcome to Across the Desk and our new series in partnership with Maddie Dever, the Autistic Rambler. Maddie is a non-binary autistic advocate engaged in political advocacy, a parent of 5, and a very funny person. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about, and we look forward to you joining the conversation. Now let's get to rambling.
As soon as I said what I said, it's like, oh shit, I said something.
As soon as you started to give a smart answer, I'm just saying, it's on you. Again. Hello and welcome to Across the Desk. And once again, we're doing a hopefully quick, relatively impromptu discussion. And we are the Autistic Rambler today with my lovely Betty Cookie Honey, Maddie Dever.
Yes, this is the non-podcast version of the podcast.
Again.
I'm not going to have a podcast today.
Well, I wasn't feeling it. My dad is dead, so that he's not an issue. But my dog is sick, so that's preying on my mind a little bit. But we started. So I had a context. There is context. It's going to sound like a bunch of caca right now, but we have context. So my premise is, if you are in a relationship with somebody who happens to be autistic, and you might be neurotypical, and you also have somebody who happens to be conflict avoidant and might be in a scarcity mindset. Like there's a few different, and I know that sounds all very labely, but it's important to the context of the conversation. My suggestion to the individual that I was speaking to today was, you need to start with you and not immediately go, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then we talked. So what I would like to talk to Maddie about, and this is a surprise to Maddie, so we're going to see how this goes, is that a reasonable premise? How do we unpack that for individuals to understand certain things, and understanding the effect of mindset on creating and anticipating conflict over certain topics and things like that? But I was asking Maddie's opinion and what they thought of that, which I said we might as well start recording, because typically I'll ask Maddie a question like that and then they start saying all this incredibly smart and insightful stuff, and I just recognize now when I should just in case press record, because it could all go to shit, but it's unlikely. So that was my suggestion to this individual.
Yes. So I as I was saying to just very few seconds ago, I think so many times we get into habits with people, or we're expecting particular things, and we don't want to see the outcome that we don't want to have arguments, we don't want to have fights, we don't want to see things happen. And instead of actually, taking things on, being clear, trying to make a change, we end up doing the things that cause what we don't want to happen. And again and again, because communication is, we all know this expression, communication is a two-way street, but it always has to start in one direction. And you can only control and change the way you go into a conversation, you go into a situation. And when it's a parent-child dynamic, I say, who's the adult in the room? Right? Who's the person that can make that can make a change? And it doesn't mean change the way you are, it's just change the way you approach something. So if you know in the past with a particular person that they get defensive in particular things, in particular ways you do things, you don't have to change what you're saying, you can just change how you're saying it. The inflection, the environment, the place, the time. Like if you know that your partner or your friend or whoever tends to get a little grumpy when it comes close to mealtime, don't bring up difficult conversations at mealtime. And I'm not saying don't bring it up. That's not what I'm saying. But give
them a Mars bar first.
Exactly. I mean,
mitigate the risk.
Exactly. It's just communication is a difficult thing for people, whether they're neurotypical or they're neurodiverse, neuro unique, neuro distinct, all of those wonderful things that make us You know, this is like, we're different, but we're okay. We're okay being different. It's
Yeah.
it's a matter of, you know, two people that are going to interact with each other need to find the best ways of interacting, and sometimes it takes one person at a time to be a little bit more and
Yes.
changing how they're doing their approach, so that you can get the good communication, the good interaction that you're looking for. And when that happens, then that creates that, you know, especially with autistics, it creates a pattern that we can see and adjust to, so that the change of how you do things is less and less necessary, because you guys have found a way forward.
Well, so it was interesting because when I was talking to this individual, okay, so we do a lot of work with the Enneagram, in particular the Enneagram in the workplace, and this is important only because what it has helped me do. So I'm an extremely strong personality since like the get-go, and you know, if my parents were still alive, they'd be nodding. I mean, if you believe in ghosts, they're nodding. So it has caused conflict for me my entire life because it was up to everybody else to like figure it out. Like, why, you know, yes, I understood the problem was me, but it took me a while to mature into the understanding that I had to make some changes to my person, and not my personality per se, because my particular personality type on the Enneagram is 8, and we don't react well to being told what to do. And when we perceive an authority situation happening, our instinct is to dig in our heels and immediately, you know, screw you, Mac. You're not telling me shit. That's to my detriment. Absolutely. It began to be to the detriment of my business relationship. So that's the lessons I've learned out of that were what I was sharing with this individual. So I was asking, so I'm a trained coach. I was asking some key questions, curiosity-based, you know, coaching. And I said, so when you do X, tell me about that response. And then I added a layer onto that, and their eyes just kind of kept going, what? Like, what? Like, this is a thing. And so we made a plan to move forward. And I said, part of it is in your mind, if you can grasp a concept or you can do something easily, I said, could it be that you then perceive that everybody can do that because it's easy for you, right? Because anything that's easy for me, and I labored under this delusion for a very long time, anything that's easy for me, I just assumed was easy for everybody.
Yeah.
And that would cause conflict because it would create expectation. And then there was a disconnect between what I thought that person was capable of and what they could actually produce. And I'm a bit of 120% kind of person, and the rest of the population, and this is a fact, not an opinion, is like a 75% effort kind of situation. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
My expectation is creating the conflict. My expectation is creating the friction.
Yeah.
And my inability to recognize a change necessary in my communication and my approach to things was creating the problem. 100% take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
What I'm asking, so what I began by asking Maddie, where I was heading with this was, when you are in a situation where you are in a relationship with an autistic individual and there are some struggles, my theory is you are better off starting with yourself and some self-work on how you're showing up in your communication style, how you're showing up, you know, how do you approach conflict? I have no problem with conflict. Like pretty much ever. It's rare that I will walk away from a conflict, but my business partner hates conflict. And because conflict is easy for me, I was such an idiot in not recognizing the impact that conflict was taking on her. Yeah. And I don't necessarily mean fighting, right? Like just
yeah, conflict. Just like, you know, even a business decision that has two different points of view, but they're really they seem like opposite, right? That's a significant conflict, and many people will shy away Okay, so there's three things that can happen with any decision, right? You can decide the right thing, you can decide the wrong thing, and you could not decide at all. And sometimes people who have been in conflict too much will do the not do anything and let things happen because they don't want to be upset. But that creates a cycle where eventually, they're dealing with uh, they're dealing with the
An uninvited
ramifications of,
life.
yeah, they're going to, they could have some resent, they could have some, and that will spill out much later on because they didn't deal with it then. So two people that are okay with conflict, conflict is good because it can bring things to resolution, and you can have conflict and win and have conflict and lose, which really is not the what we're, it's not winning or losing, it's, but there's a
Resolution.
decisions, yeah, there's a resolution. And when you come to it, like, this is, like, debating is good. Debating is good. Having criticism, really means, like, not criticism of like, you're wrong, ha ha. I don't, like, that's not criticism. Criticism means to critique things, means to say, here's a different point of view, right? Having good critiques, having good, having different sets of ideas, come to looking at a decision is good because you're going to make a better decision when you've got more
Mhm.
voices. But people who are conflict resistant or conflict
Avoidant.
averse, they're not going to want to give their full, like, they may give their first thought, and if they sense a stronger opinion, they'll back down,
That's what's
and
happening.
they'll be harder to deal with because it's not resolved for them. It may be resolved
Yeah.
for you, right? You say, oh, they didn't say no, all right, we go ahead. Not
Yeah.
saying no doesn't mean not there isn't a no there. And these are things that I've had to learn. Like, I am not the same person. Like, these last 7 years are so different to me than all the previous 40 years before that. And I realized, like, some people know, some people you really need to determine a no and not assume a no, or assume a yes. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
like, this is why, like, it's communication is a two-way street. But in order for there to be real communication, you have to, you have to make sure you've got the feedback loop figured out. If two people are having a discussion, one person is strongly saying something, the other person's not really saying something, you
A lack
the
of an
dominant,
answer
yeah,
doesn't mean you were
yes,
right.
the dominant person will see that as a yes and continue,
Yep.
and not see what you're not seeing. You got to see beyond what you see. Like, there's, as somebody who's not being responsible, not really getting into it, could have different reasons. So you need to, uh, find the way to confirm a yes, or find out what the no is, or find out why there's difficulty in sharing an opinion. And sometimes that just means, like, don't act on the assumed yes right away. Come back to it.
Yes.
Sometimes people just
That's
need time.
incredibly important because that's the person who didn't say yes also didn't say no.
Mhm,
And they're going to feel, I shouldn't say that. They're not going to, they could feel
mhm,
disrespected. They could
mhm.
feel, right. So unpacking a little bit of the conversation with this individual, um, it came down to they were raised really differently.
Yeah.
And the other person was raised in a scarcity situation. Now, for anybody so Carol Dweck has been doing work for many, many years on what's called a growth mindset. And the growth mindset means you're open to opportunity. You understand that there's enough for everybody to go around. You like to collaborate. You like to grow things. You don't tend to be a selfish individual, like to be of service, whatever. And then you have a fear mindset and a scarcity mindset. And the scarcity mindset believes that there will never be enough for everybody. You have to grab what you can, or you just don't grab anything at all because there's never going to be enough for you anyway.
Yeah.
And those two mindsets, when they come together from a communication perspective, can really dictate the outcome. And a fear or scarcity mindset, I'll back up. So a fear mindset is another animal altogether. And if you get a fear mindset with an alpha personality, that's a dangerous combination. Trump would be an example of a fear mindset.
You're going to cling on. You're going to cling and hold on, and not let go. Anybody saying no to you is actually a proof that you're a yes.
Yeah. It's that's a scary combination. You can have somebody who has a scarcity mindset who's an alpha, and what they will end up doing is likely trying to sort of hoard resources and be in control of everything and micromanage and what have you, because they just want to make sure there's plenty when there already is plenty, they just don't see it. So part of why we're getting into this is because I'm having more individuals contact us, and they are a neurotypical individual in a relationship with somebody who's neurodivergent and possibly autistic. I know for myself, my husband and I have been together over 30 years, and I had a real problem when we got together, and it was completely a me issue. My husband is profoundly dyslexic, and I read like a crazy person. Like, I read everything. I read books on apiary, which is bee farming. I read books on farming. I read books on how to grow flowers. I read biographies, autobiographies, textbooks, fantasy fiction. I just finished a great one called Leadership, tons on leadership, communication. I read all the time. And I equated the ability to read with intelligence. And that created conflict because of me and the baggage I was bringing to the table around that particular thing. And I wanted to fix him, and I wanted to help him. And what do you mean you can't read? And what do you mean that's a difficulty? Like, what are you talking about? It took me forever to differentiate that there are different types of intelligence and different ways to communicate. I am a very forceful communicator in certain situations. My husband shuts down. Depending on, he used to anyway, he's so I had to change the way I communicated. And when I started to get angry, I had to learn this about 10, 15 years ago. It took me a while, poor man, to say, is this a hill I want to die on? Is this worth turning into a fight? Could I diffuse this with authentic humor by taking a step back and going, what do I actually want to get out of this conversation? That leads me into the next thing I wanted to ask you. Because if you are somebody, so I am not somebody who gives praise at the drop of a hat. Just not that person. If I'm not yelling at you, you're doing a good job. And I forget that there are personalities who require positive reinforcement and praise on a semi-regular basis.
Yeah.
Reading the book Multipliers by Liz Wiseman helped me with that. So the one thing I asked this individual was, are you able to give your partner authentic praise? And I have a strong feeling that this individual is the same personality type as I am, because their immediate reaction was, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I read a lot about love languages a while back, and I mean, there's way more to it than what's there. But the idea that certain people respond more in particular ways, it hit me. And I have 5 kids. I have 3 daughters, and actually, out of all of the kids, they all respond differently. Like, you give one kid praise, she's going to hit you. You give another kid praise, she's going to it's like all the hearts in Instagram are going to along the side of the thing, like her heart meter just goes bubbled up. And
she's a walking gift.
And another daughter who needs them at times, but is always unsure, do you really mean it? And again, that's because, as autistics, we have found that our reactions to, like, the way we perceive other people's emotions can sometimes be so wrong. As like some of my kids are very they feel the emotions of others, and it gets confusing and overwhelming at times. And because they don't always necessarily know what those emotions mean, because they don't feel them themselves, they don't respond very well. And so they've been told that they're cold. They're told they're not empathetic. Yep, they really are. Like, they feel for the other person, and
Yeah.
like it is challenging. I've had to learn, because I'm very affectionate, and I'm I think,
And Maddie gives
like,
very nice hugs, I might say.
yes, I like warm hugs. I I I need affection. I don't need affirmation, but I don't not need affirmation. Like
You need authentic
I
affirmation.
yeah. I mean, I do a lot of things for a lot of people, and I do a lot of advocacy. And what's the most important thing for me is that my message, what I feel is important, is getting out there. And so if
Yep.
other people are bringing the same message, I'm happy with that. If other people are getting accolades for saying the things that I'm saying, I'm happy with it. But I like to have that share of the limelight as well. I like to get my name out. I like the feeling of that validation, that affirmation.
Appreciation.
Yeah, if I didn't get it, I wouldn't be hurt, but it definitely, helps me
But
be
it helps you
engaged
get
more.
over the
But
shitty times.
yeah, I've had to learn. So I don't naturally like to give um affirmation to people that, like, I don't feel have done it. But I have realized with my kids, like with one of my kids, I said, one of my kid, if I gave the hey, you did a really great job, and sort of go out of the way to do that, again, she would hit me. The other one, I know she's deserved it, but sometimes she needs a little bit more, because she's not getting it elsewhere. She's not feeling it elsewhere. She's feeling less than, because everybody's, there's a certain amount of people that have been treating it. Society doesn't accept the fact that she moves slower. She is so bright and freaking intelligent, and she's like so deep on so many different things. She reads books like you do and I do. Like, we need to read. We need to be, so we have
Yep.
knowledge that we don't understand why other people don't. But she's slower to get it out. So people don't. Some people see her as slower.
They make
which
assumptions.
is
They
oh my god.
They
Yeah.
mistake speed of expression for
Yes.
speed of
With it.
processing and intellect.
Exactly.
And that was the
Yeah.
mistake I made with my husband for many years, because he had to process, because my brain is like a squirrel on meth at a rave with a cocaine shooter, right? Like, it's
In a centrifugal force wheel.
100%. In one of those rides, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
600%. My brain goes at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It always has. And I thought everybody else's brain did that, and that everybody came up with.
Do that, or should do it. Yes.
I'm not shitting on anybody. Could do that. Or everybody thought of 1,000,000 ideas, or everybody, like, I don't need praise. I don't mind. Just like Maddie, I don't mind. I absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% on, if somebody else starts talking about what I'm talking about, great. Where it will orc me is if you have taken my idea.
Yes. And called it your own.
And called it your own, and there was somebody that I used to share space with who did that. Then I get passive aggressive. Yeah. But then I get passive aggressive, and I start making little, it's not good. It's not a good look for me, but I do, because if it's your idea, run with it. I will support you. I will do whatever. If you come to me and say, I really liked your idea and I want to do X with it, that's all I need.
Yeah.
If you have a better platform to make it happen, Godspeed, good luck, get the word out. But if you take my stuff and give no acknowledgement that you've built upon X, that is where I get Francarolis, and I will set the record straight. I've done that a few times, and not politely, I might add.
Yeah.
So the affection versus affirmation, it is really interesting, because that scarcity mindset that can be very common in autistic individuals, I think, is what plays into that. There's a scarcity of appreciation. There's a scarcity in me that's worth appreciating. And I'm not saying that's a fact. that's
Yeah.
the mindset.
Yeah.
But
There's
it's
a
the
danger.
authenticity.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
there's a
sorry.
danger. There's a danger to not having affirmation and affection met,
Oh,
especially
absolutely.
for autistics. This is where if you're not getting it, you're very susceptible to being bullied, to being abused, to being
Yep.
just
Taken advantage of.
you're going to find, if anybody gives you that affection, you're going to go, oh, and fully
Yep.
devote, and you can't. Yeah. And okay, so I found with autistics, a general rule. There's three, that you're either you don't see the bad in anybody and you accept everybody as there is. You know that there's people with motives, but you can't always see it, but you know it is. And there's those that
Yep.
see the BS in everybody, the BS detectors. And yeah, it's
So I
if
raised
you're
my hand because I again, I do not claim to be, I'm
this
not
is not
autistic. I'm
this is not a video cast, it's a podcast. They can't
oh,
see you.
did you see that signal?
Yes, I saw the bat signal.
Yeah, you saw, I'm going to give you
I
anyway.
saw the P star.
You saw the piece between the signs.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting because going back to authenticity, I have a real challenge with people who are inauthentic. I pick it up really fast. And there have been situations where I've had friends in relationships and I can see through that person. And I cannot understand why my friend who is, and I mean this in a not braggy way, I tend to attract smart, independent, talented, creative women who are, just great people. Yay, yay.
Yeah.
So that disconnect, I'm like, where is your bullshit detector? Like, did you send it in to get fixed and it didn't come back? Like, what is happening right now? But their partners recognize that I can see through them. And that then creates friction between me and my friend because the partner doesn't want to be
Doesn't like
anywhere
you.
in my vicinity because I'm going to be
Yeah.
like, what do you think you're doing? I've done that. I think it's been 4 times now where the partner then creates barriers for me to be friends with the individual because they don't want me shining a spotlight on what they're doing. So one of the things I talked to with this individual in the authentic realm is I asked them, I said, tell me 3 things that you like or appreciate about your partner. And they were able to do that quite easily. And I said, okay. I said, is there an authentic way to work praise in for those skills? I said, for an example, are there jobs around the house that that person does or can do that you can authentically show appreciation for? And they went on to describe, a few different ways. And I said, okay, that's where you begin. Because that person has already expressed that they feel less than. That person has already expressed that they have challenges believing the good in themselves. They see you as, somebody to live up to and whatever. And I said, so it's within your grasp to authentically reinforce the positives that you see in that individual. And I see this in my son, right? Like again, not being somebody who is prone to willy-nilly with the praise. When I sit down and have a one-to-one with my son and tell him, I have had to make a concerted effort to remind myself to sit down with him and tell him, eyeball to eyeball, I'm so proud of you. I'm really proud of what you've done. Like your dad and I are really impressed with this. And that's not a normal reflex for me.
Yeah.
But I know it's something he needs and deserves. I don't say it unless he deserves it. I tell you, so yesterday, I take my little ASDer, who's now 25, I might add, pick him up out of a rainstorm. We go into Shoppers Drug Mart because I have to get antihistamines for my dog. That's a whole nother podcast. And two ladies said, like a mother-daughter said something to him. I'm still in the parking lot. He's almost at the door. And all I hear is, yeah, I'm effing soaked or effing what, like just there was a big effing in the middle of this thing. And I arrive, of course, on time to see the two ladies' faces, which are like, what the hell just happened? I said, oh, is that my son dropping the F-bomb? You know, sorry about that. I ripped him a new hiney in Shoppers Drug Mart, quietly, politely, adult to adult, but said, hey now. So authentic praise. One thing Maddie said at the very beginning, which we'll tie back to, is authentically show up with, you know, constructive criticism or constructive feedback, but authentically show up in that as well. Don't pull something out of your ass or from years ago or whatever. Be in the moment, be focused on the outcome, be focused on the individual. And I said to him, I said, none of that was necessary. Using that language to a stranger is entirely rude and offensive. And in addition, and I'm sorry, but I'm playing the gender game, saying that to two women who have no idea who you are, no idea of the context. My son's also 5'11" for context, and he's not a small guy. So that is a threatening situation. And I'm like, under no circumstances do you ever do that again. And I had to take him through how they were processing it and whatever, because he just was mad about getting caught in the rain and mad about whatever. If you are in a situation where you have to engage with somebody and it's a situation around that might trigger a negative reaction, it is about your mindset and how you approach what you have to say.
Yeah.
In those types of situations with my son, I know that if I am quiet and very focused and my face does a certain Snape-like squint.
Harry Potter.
Oh, he pees a little, like I'm telling you. But he has to know. So likewise, I apply that same authentic to praise. So if he has done a bunch of stuff around the house, if he has helped his dad, if he's brought home good grades, if he's done whatever, I have to remind myself to make sure that he knows, you know, and I'll say very bluntly, if he does something like yesterday, I'll say to him, 95% of the time you are rocking this life and you're doing a great job. I said, but there's that 5% where I just want to knock you upside the head, duct tape you, and set you adrift on a big raft somewhere because you pull these boneheaded, because I know you know better.
Yeah.
And I try and preface that saying,
parenting is so fun. Parenting is so fun.
But parenting in partnership has similar qualities, right? Especially when you're dealing with somebody who's neurodivergent. And I've said to him, if I didn't think you weren't worth the effort, I wouldn't get angry. Because he asked me one time, he's like, Mom, why do you get so mad about X, Y, Z? And I'm like, well, one, I've put a lot of effort in to prevent this asshole-ish behavior. And two, you know, you're worth it.
Yeah.
You are worth correcting. You are worth giving the right information to. You are worth giving the right example to. And I've said to him point blank, like, Thomas, if I didn't think you weren't capable, I wouldn't bother getting angry.
Yeah. It's communication is both the greatest thing that humans have and our biggest weakness, our biggest challenge. Yeah. And it's, if a relationship is important, then you want to continue in it, then you can only work on you first. And you changing the way you do things, or changing your expectations. Sometimes that just changing your expectation is the biggest thing. Like if you're thinking things could be a negative situation, you're starting with a negative. Roll back.
Yeah.
Give it a, give it a hope. Give it a hope. Give it a neutral. you know, because you're going to bring that energy into whatever the communication you're going to do. And sometimes changing an approach will take more than one time. It could take 2, 3, 4, 5 times. But if the relationship is important, right, you do the work.
You got to
And
make the
then
effort.
you will find most of the time that the partner or the other person in this relationship will change alongside. You know, like, be the change you want to see, right? That's we hear that
Go
slogan a
Gandhi.
lot. Yeah. But it really is. And I've seen this with so many of the relationships that I've had. I've seen it in the relationship I had with my kids. I've seen that with relationships sometimes that I have of difficult situations that I still had to mire through in the last 7 years. The kind of situations that I find that I can't get out of now are with those that are, when you really think back and look at it, these are relationships that were unsafe to begin with, and you just didn't see it. I'm autistic. I'm not going to see it all. I am not a guru, but I do know that if a relationship is important to me, I am the only one that can make that first move. And if I'm expecting the other person to do it, I'm going to get what my expectations are, which are low.
Yeah. Well, so yes, and that was how I counseled the individual, was recognize that you are a strong personality. Recognize that that can be a lot for somebody to handle. You are seeing these consistent responses in your partner. And if the and I said, are you going to want to work on this relationship, or are we, so because if you make these changes, if you demonstrate that you're willing to acknowledge you need to approach things a little differently because of all the good you see in an individual, that creates then a sense of confidence that they can also make effort.
Yeah.
And I said, you also have to recognize that conflict is a form of vulnerability. And telling somebody what you really think and how you really feel is an act of major vulnerability for some people. For me, it's very freeing. I can't imagine trying to keep track of half-truths and hold back. And
God.
I just prefer to say,
Yeah.
I was in a situation a number of years ago where I was a bridesmaid, and bless my friend. It was 1995 for context. So, and the dress wasn't, it was a fine bridesmaid's choice. It would always be a bridesmaid's dress. And the rest of the people in the group were beepity bopping about how, oh, you could use it for this and you could use it for that and whatever. And I just remained silent because I wasn't going to disagree with them. It's her day and it's her fitting and she's showing us all this stuff. But I certainly wasn't going to go, oh, yes, because no. So after everybody left, she stopped and she said, "You've been awfully quiet." Not common for me for a very long time. Didn't realize that was a tell, but lesson learned. And I said, yes, I have. And she said, so what do you think of the dresses? And I asked her, I said, do you want me to be honest? And she said, yes, but she looked a little scared. So I kindly said, and it was authentic and true, it's a beautiful dress and will look beautiful on the day. I said, but don't kid yourself that dress screams anything but bridesmaid. I said, and that bunch of horse shit there about it can be reworn and it can be whatever, I'm like, that's crap. So I said, I just didn't want to, I said, it's your day. And whatever you want and need, I'm like, just don't let them kid you into any false sense of, this is an investment purchase. Like, we're throwing away $300 on this dress.
One of the things that is big, a huge difference between me as a middle-aged autistic as opposed to a young autistic is I used to give my advice on everything, everywhere, all the time. And it's like, it was like, I was kind about it, but I gave it. And I've realized now that that definitely was caused a lot of relationships to fray or end. And now, I mean, if I am in a situation and people ask me what I feel, and I'm getting a sense that, well, I'm probably gonna not feel the same way they do. I said, hey, I'm autistic. Do you really want my do you really want my advice, or do you want my
You want the
opinion?
filtered
Yeah,
or the unfiltered version?
like, yeah, because if you ask me, I'm going to tell you how I feel, whatever it is. And that's some, for the most part, then people will, it actually loosens them to be able to let them hear it, because they're realizing that there may be a disconnect, but they also know that I'm going to tell them the truth of how I feel. And so that has gone a long way. And there's so many times I realize I don't need to give people advice. There's no need to somebody else can do
I'll
it.
just make up a pun about it.
Yeah, same thing online. It's like, on to every tweet out there. Oh my god, I don't need to respond to every tweet out there. I don't. I sometimes if somebody says something,
arguments with Instagram people, and then finally somebody will butt in and say, like, you're not going to change their mind. And I'm like, but if I can convince one person reading this that they're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's sometimes I'll do it, because I know that I'm not having it's not for the person I'm writing to, it's for the observers. And so there's sometimes I'll do that, but I don't need to do it all the time. And I don't anymore either. Yeah. A few years ago that I was responding to every tweet, and every tweet that I would get attacked, I would do it again and again and again. Yeah. And I kept doing that because I get some people in my DMs saying, hey, thank you, I'm glad you're doing this. This your opinion is valid. We need to hear the autistic side of things. Parents get heard way too much. And okay, but it took a toll on me, I'll tell you that much. And I realized
but honestly
that
does. I don't think people realize how hard it is to be honest and to be direct and to engage.
Yeah.
Like you are. And it was interesting because I would be selectively so. And then I just decided to drop that other persona, because I was like, I had a friend who had constantly had to weave stories to avoid conflict between groups, because some people got invited to things and some people didn't. And some people knew this fact and some people didn't.
Yeah.
And I finally looked at her and I'm like, this is exhausting. Mm-hmm. Why don't you remind these people that high school was a long time ago? And grow the fuck up, pardon my language, but just grow up. Like, if they're going to get offended because somebody went on vacation with somebody else, and do you really want to hang around with somebody who's stuck being 18? Like, ew.
14, 12, seriously, middle school. Oh my gosh. Actually, some middle schools are way more mature in than adults. And many
100% agree.
We're just so prone to this stuff. Okay, that's what we're doing. Yeah, we can go all over the place with that one. I'll just let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Well, that was an interesting way to wrap it up, because no, I have a thing. He's rabbiting me. They're rabbiting me, sorry. So maturity, I think this is a way to tie it all together. Maturity doesn't necessarily mean what you think it means. Maturity is a state of knowledge. Mm-hmm. It is a state of being. It is a state of self-awareness. It is not age-related necessarily. It is life experience related. And developing these communication skills and developing the ability to give authentic praise and developing the ability to recognize when your energy is creating conflict and how to accept that you might need to work on some of your challenges before expecting somebody else to change is a maturing process. I'm really hoping I figure it out before I reach 80. I'm still, I got 27 years. Right?
Podcast at 80.
I'll whip you with my chain, you little whippersnapper.
It's virtual. You can't hit me. What'd you say?
Yeah. Well, so seriously, my mom, if she disagreed and she had her cane handy, that little woman could whip around and she just.
Yes. Yes.
Or if you're
You're
at the
not
table,
6 feet apart. You're not 6 feet apart from me. Watching.
well, she died before the pandemic, so we didn't have to navigate that. But
Same as my mom,
if
which
you
is, yeah.
elbows on
Yeah.
the table, my mom's communication style was to take a fork and stick you in the elbow. Oh
Yeah.
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 She was very direct in that capacity. But that's what this requires, is the maturity to realize that you need to put some work into this. That if the relationship, be it parent or child, be it partner to partner, be it friend to friend, and there's a consistent lane of conflict, it's not one-sided.
Mhm.
You are bringing something to the table that is contributing to this, whether it is a lack of ability to create realistic expectations, whether it is the expectation of conflict that you then manifest in the conversation,
Mhm.
whether it is, like me, you're slow to give praise where some people need it more than you. Needing praise isn't a weakness.
Mhm.
And that's what I thought for a very long time. Praise is motivating. Praise is uplifting. Praise helps you build resilience, because praise helps you realize that what you're doing is worthwhile and all these other kinds of things. So we've covered a few different ways about communicating, but the main goal of this was to get people to recognize that it's not entirely up to the other person
Mhm.
in the relationship to change first. And in some instances, I've been very direct with people and said, that person isn't going to change. Why you continuously set yourself up
Yeah.
for frustration? Because there are some autistic behavior patterns that are just hardwired.
Yeah.
And if they were unable to recognize certain emotions when you met, I'm not sure why you're expecting that to have.
Yeah.
That's
And
just the thing.
yeah, the thing that's important, and I'll leave off with this, is that if you're not willing to change a little to make the communication between you and this other person better, how can you expect them to change?
100% agree. And that was my point to this individual, was that if you take a step. So what I've suggested to them is that they partake in a thing that we offer. It's a discovery tool, and then invite that individual to participate on your version, not ask them to take it, not ask them to judge, not ask them, but just say, hey, I would really, me, I'd really appreciate your feedback on this and all these other things. And they immediately anticipated conflict. I'm like, I try not to shit on people, but you need to let that go. If you expect this to go well, you can't
Yeah.
expect conflict. Be prepared if it happens,
Mhm.
but walk in and sometimes it's just a question of changing your language.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's being cognizant. Maddie made a really valid point at the very beginning. If you want to have a good discussion with somebody and it's 5:30 and they're in the process of making dinner, honey, they're already hangry. Like, you are
Yep.
don't set yourself up for failure. If they are reading a book or they're doing
Mhm.
something they enjoy, you interrupting that because your perception that your thing is more important is disrespectful to that person and sets you up for conflict. So be aware of where the other person's at in their day. Be aware that if you want to have a sensitive discussion that involves some feedback and involves some whatever, that you got to time it.
Yeah, don't do it with only 5 minutes before you have to go someplace. That's just not the right time.
Disaster, because you're
Three,
already
yeah,
stressed. And
3 o'clock in the morning, also not a great time.
my brain does that to me quite frequently, but
Mhm.
that's a me and I conversation. I have done that to my son. I've gotten cross and then I'm driving him somewhere and I let it rip in the car, and I don't mean a fart, but it stinks like a fart because that's how I set up his day.
It's verbal diarrhea.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's just awful. And I always apologize when I pick him up. I mean, I shouldn't do it, but
Yeah.
is a thing. I've had to reflect really hard on the impact of how I communicate. I've had to reflect really hard if the goal is for me to win or the goal is for me to learn,
Mhm.
I've had to reflect really hard on how I show up. And I've had to realize that me doing that work doesn't mean the other person has to.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's amazing sometimes when we focus on changing a few things of how we do things, that we actually see things differently, and we were the block, we were the barrier that the other person had, and us
Yep.
changing how we said things, how we approach things, just a kinder voice can there's no other change that's necessary. We were the change, we were the only change necessary. So you can't know that until you do the work. And
Do the
again,
work.
you have to let go of the expectation that somebody else has to change. Like you can't change anybody. You're not responsible for anybody else changing. You're only responsible for you.
And if you don't demo that,
Um,
and they've never had, and keep in mind, as
Yeah.
we're getting close to wrapping up, but this just came to me that one of the things we referenced at the very beginning is when you are in a partnership situation. My husband and I grew up in very different households, and the individual I was speaking about earlier, he and his partner grew up in very different households. If nobody has ever had it modeled for them that change is possible, if nobody's ever had it modeled for them that maturity involves self-reflection and self-awareness and whatever, then it isn't reasonable to expect that to happen on its own.
Yeah.
And you modeling that is key.
Yeah.
One of the, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but my kids and I went and saw, and my kids are 25 and 24. So this is kind of cool for me. We went and saw the Disney movie Elemental, which, by the way, I highly recommend. It was really good. And the key character, Ember, is a fire-based creature, and she keeps losing her temper. And it takes until 3/4 into the movie before she says something that has stuck with me ever since. She's like, "What is my temper trying to teach me?"
Yeah. Exactly.
So what is this conflict trying to teach you? What is this communication challenge trying to teach you? Learn. You got to be open to learning.
Yep. Just learn.
So once again, the Unpodcast podcast strikes gold. I do say so myself.
Yeah, it's the way we were talking before we hit record. I was like, "Oh, it's feeling like a podcast." Then you said, "We're not doing a podcast today." 1 minute later, we hit record.
1 minute later. Is that your evil plan all along?
Hey, as I said before, if there's a microphone in front of me, just give me a topic and I'll talk.
And magical presto. An hour later, we're done. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining us, everybody. As always, I'm Elizabeth Plouffe. I'm the founder of Spirit Careers Canada. We're a technology company focused on solving the autism and neurodivergent unemployment crisis. My co-host is the lovely Maddie Dever, whose website is the Autistic Rambler.
No, Autistic Rambler. No, the.
Leave off the. Those are bad. AutisticRambler.com. Be prepared for an assault on the senses in the current incarnation of the website, but there's lots of cool stuff to learn about Maddie because they are extremely busy and doing some incredible projects. So please take the time to go and have a peek. And you mentioned before we started pressing record, you're doing your other podcast this weekend in Hamilton. What's the name of the other one?
We do a Facebook Live podcast every Monday, 5 p.m. ish. But I'm getting together with Anthony Frazina in Hamilton this weekend. We're going to do a couple of Facebook Lives throughout the weekend around Hamilton. And
what's the name of it?
It's Above and Beyond the Accessibility and Inclusion Podcast.
No marketing person helped you design that name.
I'm the co-host. I'm not the host. I'm not the main. Again, point me to a microphone and let me speak, and I do.
So Above and Beyond, with Maddie Dever and Anthony
Frazina.
So take a peek because that's another lived experience based podcast.
Yep.
But thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
two guys who just roll on together.
Is he in a wheelchair as well?
Yes, he is. We'd
Rolling.
be rolling down the podcast.
We're Tina Turnering the crap out of that. Yeah, baby.
Actually,
Oh,
it
she's
was
a queen.
it wasn't Tina Turner that did that. It was
CCR.
yeah, it wasn't Tina.
Tina did it as well, though. Or hers was more Proud Mary.
Yeah.
Similar. Oh, I wonder who ripped off who. That's another conversation.
Everybody
so
in that generation.
Yeah. Who knows what we'll be talking about next time, but I'm sure it'll be fun. So we will talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. You waved.
I just said bye. I
Bye.
did this and then bye. So long.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Across the Desk and our new series, The Autistic Rambler. Please visit spirocareerscanada.ca to learn more about the tools we're building with the autism community, and please visit theautisticrambler.com to learn more about Maddie Dever.